Hi, my name is Dr. Rashawn Ray, aiming to speak truth to power, and this is my daily thought. A voteless people is a hopeless people. That is one of the national programs of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, which is the first intercollegiate fraternity, intercollegiate predominantly black fraternity on college campuses that I happen to be a part of, that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. happens to be a part of, that Dr. W.B. Du Bois happens to be a part of, Thurgood Marshall. The list could go on and on. And so when I hear people saying that they don't want to vote or that they're not going to vote because potentially a person isn't a desirable candidate, honestly, I really don't understand, right? I mean, given the history in this country as it relates to what it took for black people and women to have the right to vote, right? Now, obviously, I can understand if both of the main party candidates aren't necessarily people who you would like to vote for, then you have several other options. I mean, we have a Green Party, we have an Independent Party, we have a Libertarian Party. And to make politics really interesting, what we really need are to have third and fourth party candidates at the local level, right? Because that's when we really see the drop off as it relates to people voting. And so when I think about voting, to me, it's real simple. If you don't vote, then you're not at the table, and closed mouths don't get fed, right? And if you're not at the table, then you're on the menu and somebody's eating you for lunch. And I mean, that just becomes very, very simple. So like when I hear this Bernie or Bust group, which honestly, I think the media has really been playing it up. There have been a series of polls taken showing that upwards of 90% of people who voted for Bernie in the primary elections plan to vote for Senator Clinton. And my god brother, Thomas James, who's a barber, he said that people come in the barbershop all the time and they'll basically say, I'm not voting. And his response is, I tell them that a non-vote is a Trump vote. And I think that could be something that we think about, right? And obviously, you don't necessarily want to vote for someone to not let somebody else get into office, and people talk about kind of this lesser of two evils. But I think that is an important perspective to think about. Now, the other narrative that happens is that people always talk about black people and not voting. But one thing people don't realize is that blacks actually voted at a higher rate than whites did in the previous election. In other words, more blacks on average voted than whites did, right? Now, local elections are a different issue. And I think that's really where we should also focus on, where we really start to see a white, non-white gap. Among young voters, we see something very different. They are really pushing, and this young voters, 18 to 30 for the most part, are really pushing for a third and fourth party. And so I think people have several options that they can do and several reasons why they should vote. I mean, you're voting in local elections for one. You're also voting as it relates to the presidency, someone who might appoint 1, 2, or 3 Supreme Court justices. You're also voting on someone who is going to make decisions about foreign policy. I mean, you really, really need to think through that. And also, you're voting on someone, even if we don't necessarily progress toward equality and equity, and I think we will continue to do so with the Black Lives Matter movement, we also don't want to put someone in office who will roll back progress, right? And we've seen that in previous times. If some of these candidates who you have, write someone in. I mean, you have several different options that you could go by. And as my fraternity brother Chris Riddick said, in regards to Representative Keith Ellison, said it best: not voting is not a protest, it's a surrender. Not voting is not a protest, it's a surrender. So get out and vote. A voteless people is a hopeless people. And exercise your right in the way that so many people have worked hard for us to have the right to do so.